What up? Wade here. So today what we're going to cover are the 5 things you must have to create a career or business that you're passionate about. And we're going to look at it both from the inside of understanding what specifically drives you, what jazzes you up, whether that be finding a challenging career, something with meaning, the type of income, the type of freedom, and just the excitement and enjoyment that you want in your career or business. And then we're also going to look at it from the outside, the specific strategies you need so we can start creating action steps here today in this video to start living the life that you want and to where you're at that point where you're waking up every day excited to take action and go for it. So let's just start off right away and diving into the first method. The first thing, before we dive into any specific strategies here, before we dive into any sort of business principles, is that if you want more passion, you want more excitement, you need to realize those are feelings, and all feelings are under your control. And it's a choice. Happiness is a choice. Happiness is a skill set. You choose to wake up and choose what you focus on, the questions you ask yourself, and the habits and the patterns that you've had in the past, changing those, and really starting to take proactive action. And so what's really important here, the first step is just, growing a pair of balls and quit being a little bitch and stop blaming everything outside of your control. Stop having that victim mindset where you're blaming your boss because he's an asshole. You're blaming, it's just your job. It just doesn't have the meaning that you want. You're blaming your coworkers because they're lazy. It's the economy. It's that you had a shitty major in college. It's because your parents told you to do this and you followed them and you didn't do anything for yourself, or even blaming yourself. Stop all that, cut all that away, and instead of blaming others, what that does is you lose control then and start looking at, okay, what can I specifically do here? How can I create the life that I want? How can I be proactive and actually take action? So getting out of the reactive mode and start getting proactive. So now that you've decided to take proactive action, I want to get into prioritizing your passion, but that's actually step 3. First, what we got to do is kill the business fantasies and kill all those misconceptions that people have about business and what a career should be, like the ideal version of that. Because one of the biggest causes of frustration and confusion that I see is guys having what I call the highlight reel effect. You could call it the Bilzerian effect. You could call it the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And what it is people looking at ideal lifestyles, looking at YouTube videos, social media accounts like Instagram and saying, my life's not like that, and until it's like that, I'm not gonna be happy. And that is an ideal. It's a life that doesn't exist. I have people come to me all the time. I get a lot of emails and they're saying, how do you do what you do? Like, how do I create a life coaching business where I can do a couple YouTube videos and then create a couple products? I'm like, you don't see all the other stuff that went into it, all the failed, funnels and sales funnels and going from 6 employees back down to 2, making it 2 little units and all of a sudden saying, oh, production doesn't work and crossing it and changing all these things up to where now you look at it and it's like things are very simple and it is just kind of creating cool videos and having a business that I super love, but there was so much that led up to this point to get me there, like websites and plugins and all these crazy things. So don't look at just the outward sort of superficial view of something. Look at it from, okay, what steps would I have to take here? And also for the other aspects of life too. I see people, back when I was a dating coach, people look at that and they go, oh my God, I want to have that lifestyle, not realizing that the rest of their life was a complete, piece of shit. They're just, it was me too. Unhealthy, not having a good social circle because I was working every weekend. And yeah, my dating life was great, but what else is out there? Or fitness coaches and you're like, I want to look like them. But you don't realize that's all they do. And there's more to life. There's more to life than just the business success. So to get rid of some of these fantasies here, first off is realizing there's more to life than any one thing. But also for that work life specific, there is no ATM business. And what I mean by this is you need to just get that out of your head, that there's this idea of internet marketing where you could come up with some sort of special hack where you learn something, you slap together a website, and all of a sudden money just comes into your bank account and you outsource everything. That doesn't exist. It might have existed 20 years ago, it doesn't anymore. As well as thinking that you're gonna create some passive income sort of business stream. Passive income is something you do after you already have like a regular income coming in and you have wealth set aside to where now you wanna work on that. And let me tell you, if you're going, you're setting up your business to be passive income, that's not a business plan. That's literally a dream at this stage, if that's what you're trying to do here. So cut that out of your mind. What you want to do is focus on what could I do 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, to where I didn't even care if I got paid for it or not. So what do you want to do after you create your fortune, after you have all the money? And too often what I hear is guys saying, you know what, I want a type of job where I can work from my laptop and I can just travel around. I can just, sit on the beach and be in Barcelona one week, then I'm gonna go to Thailand another week. That's not a business model. That's just like a lifestyle. That's just a very naive, it's like a kid saying, I wanna be an astronaut or something like that. Good, that's a good place to start, but what do you wanna actually do? What value do you wanna create for other people? Focus on someone else other than yourself here for a second, and think about what you would do, like I said, after you create your fortune. Look at somebody like a Bill Gates, or look at a Peter Thiel. These guys have, Bill Gates has the most money of anyone in the world, yet he's still working harder now because it's about the contribution. Where do you want to have for yourself that meaning and that contribution? And that's what really leads us well into the next principle. And now it's time to prioritize your passion. And so what I mean by this is specifically finding custom tailored what you want, what drives you. And so you could look at all the different things that lead to sort of that feeling of passion. You have just security. And what I mean by that is okay, how well do you feel not the volatility in your career or your income, but also you have just the opposite of that, which would be the variety, the challenge, and the growth within your job. You have the amount of income, of course, how much money you want to make. And then you have things like meaning and growth and all those things combined. You want to find the algorithm for yourself that fits right. Because some people, they value meaning first. And so with that, you could look at somebody like a social worker or your teacher. But a lot of times what they didn't realize when they jumped into that is they didn't think about, well, what about the income? And so they're actually frustrated because, and they're not enjoying their career as much as they would like because it's not feeding them the lifestyle that they want, even though they do have the meaning. As well as looking at what about things like freedom? For a lot of guys, freedom is number one. But what does freedom mean to you? Is it about mobility? Is it about being able to work from anywhere? Is it able to work from home or anything like that? Is it about flex hours? Because once you start getting specific, then you might see opportunities within your current job or within a career similar to that where you can do it that way. Because a lot of times what too many people do is they get very black and white. So they say, I have this job, it's not giving me the life I want, I don't enjoy it, it's not passionate, so I have to quit this job and start my own business. And almost every time, it's never that black and white. And even if it is the ultimate goal is to start the business, to get there, that might be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. Instead, you got to get creative and say, okay, what are those things that I do like? What does motivate me? What does jazz me up is the word I'm going to be using a bunch here. And then from that, prioritizing them specifically in the order for yourself. And so like I said, the freedom, even something like, I had a client a few days ago and he was talking about, okay, for me, one thing is I got to be my own boss. I said, okay, that's cool. There's something going on there. What about if you had somebody that you really respected? And so what if it was like this, like I think for myself, some of my business mentors, if I wasn't doing something that I love and I already have my sort of passion business going on here, I would totally love to work with them for a few years and just get their coffees and understand and learn all these things from them. So is it so much that maybe it's not that you can't have a boss, it's just the boss that you currently have isn't the right one. Same thing with coworkers and things like that. Because also, if you don't have a boss, your customers could become your boss, your employees could become your boss. So you really have to define, when it comes to your environment, what does that look like? What is your perfect day? And so the first step before you decide what the game plan is, you have to decide what you really want. And so by creating all these sort of tendrils of different things of what drive you and putting them into different priorities, what it does is it gets it out of here of just saying, I don't like my job, into, okay, now here's the different things, the blueprint for what's going to lead to that passion, and now I can go create that for myself. And then once you know what drives you, the next thing we need to do is get you there. And so if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Everyone would have the life that they want. And I think a lot of it, people are just living again that life in reaction, hoping that someday the perfect sort of job is going to fall into their laps, or the perfect idea to start that business is just going to happen. And that's not how it works. And that's why it was so important, number one, with that proactive take action mindset. But when we get to this stage, really what's going on here is that most people, they just want security. And so when you have something like the corporate ladder, where you just kind of climb up, you check a couple things off, seniority-based sort of jobs where you work there longer, all of a sudden you get paid a little bit more, you get a little bit more responsibility. That's set up for business owners, for employers, so that people feel secure and they just stay in the job. It's job security. Hey, I don't have to find another employee. You don't want to get stuck in that. And unless you are the type of, hey, if security is number one when you went through that, if you're like, security is number one to me, awesome. But I'm saying here, warning you to not fall into the corporate ladder mindset. Because what happens is it really limits your growth potential. and it limits your ability to move up as fast as you want. You might say, oh, I want to be a VP. Normally that takes 10 years, and no one's ever done it before. You got to go through all these different steps. Who cares? Don't be that person to stick into that sequential mode there. You want to almost look at it as you're this like blob. You're just going through, and all you want to do is just never say no to anything. So if all of a sudden, a new employee comes in, you're like, it's not my job to train him. Train him up anyways, help him out. It's not my job to create a manual. Create the manual, boom. All of a sudden you're doing all these different tasks, and you're like, well, I'm not getting paid for that shit. One of my favorite quotes, Napoleon Hill, the man who works more than he's paid for, soon will be paid for more than he works. And so have that mindset of just saying, I'm gonna say yes to everything that comes my way. Just take action, train people, projects, managing people, and then going outside of that and reading the books and thinking about, okay, how could I develop that management? How could I develop that leadership skill set? How could I develop marketing, even if I'm not even on the marketing team? And once at some point you have so many of these things that you can hit a totally different path than someone else. And the second aspect of all this, when you become that blob where you're just taking on more responsibilities, is that it's a little bit scary. You're putting your head out there to take a risk. And if you take on a big project and you fail, oh no, that's like some opportunity for failure there, and you might lose your job, all these different things. That's scary. And so that holds people back from even taking the risk. And what you need to do is you desensitize yourself. You just start with small little things, taking on more, and then you're gonna get more and more comfortable with that added responsibility. So if you thought, even in the last section, when you're prioritizing your passion there, if one of your top things was freedom, let me tell you, this is the biggest one, where freedom comes from more responsibility. You have the freedom, the free time to do what you want when you're the boss who's doing big things. And the only way to do that is to get comfortable with the sort of scary things, getting comfortable managing other people, getting comfortable managing bigger projects that, oh my God, there's more moving parts here. And that comes not from just an instant, it comes from slowly building those skills and slowly just taking on more things. And so there's an interesting little piece of advice for sales here, give a little side tangent, in that the hardest time to make a sale is when you really need it. And so if you're starting from scratch, you're thinking, well, good for you, I need to make the sale. But when you all of a sudden have all the business you need, it's just easy to be in a position where you can turn it down and really negotiate easily. And it's the same thing with your career. You gotta be able to get comfortable negotiating for that ultimate salary. Your boss's job is to give you as little money as possible for you to do as much work as possible. And if you don't lean into that and push into that, you're always just gonna be living again in that reaction mode. And so how do you get comfortable? Great book that I talk about for negotiating, getting to yes. And they have the concept of the BATNA, which I don't remember what the acronym is for. Basically, it's like, what is your worst case scenario? And so this comes back if we talk about with the dating advice arena, when guys are like, okay, I met this awesome girl and I wanna date her. How do I get to that point where I can ask her out? And what you say, oh, go find 5 other women so that you don't really care too much. You aren't too needy and you're kind of really just cool about it. And then all of a sudden you suck her in and you've positioned it in a really good way to where you can start off the relationship really well there and not being like grabbing and being the needy guy. You want to do the same thing with your career, and the way to do that in your career is through networking. It's through building relationships, going and getting coffee, going and grabbing a beer with your boss or your coworkers, and be building that out and building what I call that networking garden, where not today, not tomorrow you can find a new job, but if you do that for 6 months, you're gonna have such a network of people that you'll never have to worry about a career again. And so when you get to that ultimate stage of taking risks, if you do take the career route, you do take the sort of executive route here, the best way that you're gonna do that is not by, oh, I'm just gonna work my way up, even negotiating better, you can lean into that a bit. It's gonna be skipping careers and moving around to different businesses, and the only way you're gonna do that again is having that relationships and those networks to really be able to handle it. And finally, the 5th principle is that you have to play the long game. And so back when I was a dating coach, one of the things I always said was that it usually takes about 3 to 5 years to get really good with success with women. And there's a whole process that you go through. And the process is actually really easy, it's really simple. It's just you start going out, you get desensitized to talking to beautiful women, you get comfortable approaching, you develop those social skills, you start getting reference points, and that builds up your confidence. And through being more confident, then all of a sudden you're able to talk better, you get better results, and you hit that upward spiral of success with your dating life. And it's the exact same thing in businesses. It's a simple process, and it just takes time. And so if you go back to that whole highlight reel effect, is that people want things immediately. Instead of looking at me, I've been coaching for almost 10 years now. And so you can't just compare yourself and say, hey, I want that right now, get it today. It's go and set up the system and set up the strategies so you can start moving towards that and developing that. And like I said, getting creative. And what I don't want you to do is go, okay, I'm not gonna be happy until I reach that point. Change your perspective, change your focus. And really what it is when you have a concept, something like your dead-end job, all that comes down to, a dead-end job, is that you don't see the connection from where you are today to where you wanna be. And so that's a small little reframe when all of a sudden you see, wow, I have all these opportunities, I have all these options, I have all this growth potential. To reach that, first you gotta know what that is that you're moving towards, and then secondly, going, okay, there is a lot of stuff I'm doing right now that actually is moving me towards that. That increases the passion, that ignites that excitement, and then when you just be a little patient, relax a little bit, and play that long game, that's what leads to success. And so there you have it, fully taking it from the inside, putting it on the outside. And what's gonna be awesome is you're gonna go to work tomorrow, you're gonna be starting your job, you're thinking, damn it, he's right. All of a sudden I feel more passionate, I feel more excitement. It's gonna be awesome. And now you have a step-by-step game plan to take this as far as you would like. So if you like this video, I would love to have you subscribe to my channel. And yeah, we're gonna have videos like this coming out every single week. Every Wednesday morning they come out nice and fresh. As always, enjoy.